forgot to put the intro in. Andrew, son of a bitch. Your song.
You just sing.
Your
Pat, in the pack runs deep. I got nothing left to compete. We're
Not bad,
all
EJ.
Namaste.
That was good.
We got this.
We got this. All right. Okay.
That was good. We're without a man, without an intro. It's on brand.
It's a little rough today. And we were talking about Sarah, who is always she's the time setter. We're going to do it here. How do you guys feel about that? And then we're always waiting for her. How does that work?
She'll come in and drop the best knowledge right when we need it.
I hope so, because I have no idea what we're doing. When you guys said we wanted to do a Wolfpack podcast, which, by the way, brought to you by Kootenai Yoga School, look them up. They are signing up people for upcoming classes as we speak. And actually, I saw something the other day. Lisa sent out, there's some deals on some upcoming packages as well. And if you've ever gone to Kootenai Yoga School and you have your YTT, your 200 hours, you might be interested in the January programs in Bali for past alumni. So I've got a dog.
Oh, you're making a shadow. I was like, Kali Mudra, yes.
No, I got the dog. That's the only shadow work I know.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, but hold on. I had an experience, a dream thing, and I mentioned something in our text group about tonight's show. I said I have a dream that I want to tell you guys about, and then I sort of hinted at what it might be, and Sarah was like, well, that ties into shadow work. Do you want me to tell that's where you guys go?
Yeah.
What's the dream?
What's the dream?
No way, you
I
had a
see?
dream? Wait, let me get this straight. You had a dream about an alien?
Boom.
You guys are so on top of your shit today. It's awesome.
Well, I keep looking for Sarah to pop up in the corner and save the day. I'm like, there's only so much I have on shadow work without her.
Okay, so I'll tell the dream story. I'll try to make it as quick as possible. No guarantees. And then you guys can try to figure out how this has anything to do with shadow work. EJ, it might be on you, okay?
I like this game.
Okay, so if you know anything about this group, we have a connection with aliens. Sarah and I saw an alien when we were in Joshua Tree in the summer, okay? Not only that, I believe Sarah has other alien encounter stories that she just hasn't shared with us yet. And I also believe that she may have alien DNA. And if you know her, you know that there's a strong possibility, and there's numerous reasons why we all believe this. She's just not the same as the rest of us. She's different, right?
Yeah,
and I mean
she's the mother of the mothership.
There is, yes, exactly. Okay, and that's not a judgment. I'm not judging her at all. She's got very interesting qualities. Okay, here's the other thing I need to say about dreams with me. I do not dream. I sleep like a ton of bricks. Okay?
Oh yeah, I know.
And I don't remember my dreams. So when I do, it's kind of freaky to me. And I had one about a week and a half, 2 weeks after our alien encounter in Joshua Tree this summer. And it was one of the most vivid dreams of my life. And it didn't scare me or anything like that. It just shook me to my core. And not only that, when I woke up from it this past summer, I was like, I remembered every detail of the dream, and the colors were wildly vivid, everything. So we're in a new city, new environment. So maybe I'm not sleeping as well as I would normally sleep. So that might have something to do with it. But I had a dream a couple of nights ago, and I actually texted you guys because I couldn't get back to sleep. And I was in my yard in Yak when I was a teenager. And the only reason I felt that was because I knew I wasn't in the dream. I knew I wasn't where I was right now. I knew that implicitly. And when I looked up, it was the tree line. It's hard to explain, but the tree line and the evening sky made me feel like I was back in Yak. And I was staring at the moon, and it was full. And right on the corner of the moon was a little sliver of light. And I was staring at it, and I was like, oh my God, I'm having another alien encounter. And these dreams that I've had, this is the second one now, they're so much like real life that it's crazy. Like I feel like I'm actually awake in the dream. And I'm looking around for somebody else, like I did when I saw the craft that we saw in Joshua Tree. Immediately, as soon as I saw it, I looked around to see if I had any witnesses. And I know there were people around, but I couldn't place them. I couldn't bring them into the dream. And I stared at it for however long. It was a significant period of time until the sliver of light started to move. And then it started to come down at me. And it started to take the shape of a craft, an alien craft. And it was shaped a little bit more like a hat, but it was still a flying saucer, and it was opaque. And then it came over top of the tree line, and then the bottom of it started to light up, and it went bright, bright, bright yellow.
What?
And when I woke up in the morning, it almost felt like it was a repressed memory. And I know that sounds a little wonky, but it felt like it was so real and so vivid to me that it felt like something that I had already gone through. So when I texted you guys that in the Wolfpack chat group, Sarah immediately said that ties in beautifully to the shadow work that we're doing tonight for the Wolfpack podcast, which I have no idea what shadow work is.
She's right, though. It really, really does.
Okay, can you explain, EJ, what that means then?
Well, the second you said you're back in your teenage self,
yeah,
looking at something so shadow work it's repressed memories, subconscious beliefs, limiting beliefs, and we usually develop them in childhood, which is why inner child work is so huge for shadow work. But when you say that it felt real, you could have just been remembering something that has actually happened to you. But I'm like, who are the people that you're with? You need to sit with this and meditate with this. This is why you need to do yin yoga, Locke.
I couldn't bring them in. I was trying to bring them in, but they were just sort of figures on the outside of the dream. Right? And so yeah. I wasn't able to and I was actually trying to because I wanted somebody to witness this with me. Right? You know,
yeah.
Like when you see something crazy, you immediately go, I need somebody to verify this just so that everyone doesn't think I'm nuts. So that's the feeling that I had. And it was weird because remember I don't know if you guys remember me retelling the story that of the dream that I had after we had the encounter in Joshua Tree and I was back in Canada. But I remember not being anxious at all when that dream was happening or when we were in the compound in JT. I had no anxiety or wasn't nervous at all, but I was in this dream, I was freaked out.
You need to remember the rest of the dream.
I woke up as soon as it looked like whatever the craft was doing was powering up. Yeah. What was weird too was that it was almost like I could see through the craft too. Like, does that make sense? Like it was opaque. You could anyway.
Yeah. This is wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Locke, the feeling that you felt in that dream,
Yeah.
I'm curious, could you trace it to a time in your everyday life where you have felt that?
The feeling.
Yeah, the feeling rather than actually what happened. Like what you were feeling in your gut.
No, not that I can think of.
Because sometimes for me, like, and I relate to this in that I often go back to my high school self in my dreams, but my brain will recreate a new situation fully based off a feeling that I've been comfortable feeling at that time in my life. So, like, for example, I was typically falling behind in school. So I'll be in my dream and it'll be like a dramatized version of that. And then I
Mm-hmm.
like wake up and I'm like back in the feeling. And like for me, my shadow work looks like sitting there, like in that feeling and like trying to find when I felt it. And then working on my adult self, grabbing that child version of myself, grabbing hands with it and making peace with it.
So let me ask you a question, EJ. Is shadow work? What is? It sounds like it's some sort of activity.
I think
It's something you
yeah.
participate in, right?
I don't think
It's
you choose when you do it though. Like
yeah.
I
Oh,
You
think
can do it in a
it
variety
chooses
of
you.
different ways if you choose to actively discover your shadow self. I feel like we all know our limiting beliefs and that's why we repress it and deny it. But essentially your shadow self is any part of you that you deny or you keep in the dark. And it could be positive attributes, it could be negative attributes. It's usually things that bring you that you're ashamed to bring out in society or you're afraid to portray in society. It could be a limiting belief, which goes back to Andrew, what you said. Quite often, these limiting beliefs happen when we're teenagers, when we're super, super young. And you have to sit with the feeling, like you said, and it's really icky. I don't want to say it's really icky work, but it's a really icky feeling to sit with. And that's why people avoid it so much. And it's asking shadow questions. You could do journal prompts. You could sit and meditate on a feeling. Why do I feel not enough? Or why am I not enough? And your subconscious will reveal to you the limiting belief.
Mm,
Or even little things like, why don't I sing in front of people? Why am I afraid to sing in front of people? And if you sit with it long enough, you'll find the moment back in time where Jennifer in third grade told you to shut up because you sound bad.
mm.
mm.
Does it? So
So
you
it
could do.
is. It is a practice, and you can go there. So I would be, if I was to do some shadow work with that dream, I would be sitting in and trying to recreate that feeling I had that woke me up.
Not
I
trying
would
to read.
ask what you're afraid of.
Yeah,
You
just
said you're
analyze.
afraid when the light shines down.
I have no idea. I don't
This is
really
good.
remember ever having a feeling like that either. Like it was a paralyzing fear. Like I couldn't move, and that was almost what woke me up too. Like I was frozen. I couldn't breathe. I was like,
Was it partial sleep paralysis? Have you ever had that?
I don't think well, I have sleep paralysis every night because I sleep so well.
I think sleep paralysis is where you're in between the dream world and the physical world, and I've heard of people like being extremely spooked in that mind state.
Maybe I was there for a bit because I literally was wide awake for about an hour. I fell back to sleep at about 5:30 and it was about 4:30 when I got up. Something was going on with the dog too cuz when I woke up the dog was making noises like he was having a bad dream. So I got the dog up as well.
Dang.
Yeah,
Or he like felt your fear.
Not the dog.
yeah,
Were
possibly.
you afraid of seeing the alien? Were you afraid that people would judge you for seeing this? We should really dive into your shadow dream log.
I'm trying to remember like what I was like when I was a kid, because I was a very different kid. I remember not being not fitting in, but not having a problem with that. Like I remember there were a couple of moments where I was like, "Oh, okay, I get this high school thing. You need to try to fit in." And I was like, "Well, man, I'm not going to do that. That is not how I'm wired." And so I was very different. I was an outsider, but not, but I kind of did it on purpose, but I didn't have
Yeah.
any anxiety about being an outsider. I kind of just moved around different groups, and I wasn't tight in any group. I wasn't tight with the jocks. I wasn't tight with the jean jacket, patch crew that smoked at recess. I wasn't tight with anybody. Like I didn't really fit into any group. Didn't fit in with the academics, didn't whatever, right? But I didn't have any issues with it. And sort of outside looking in, I looked at them and I was like, well, I'm getting out of here, and you losers are all going to live here for the rest of your lives. That was my sense and the day I graduated, I got out of there. So I don't have anything that I can tie into from high school or that time that brings up that type of feeling.
I think we also got to remember the possibility that it has nothing to do with shadow work and is just like aliens trying to get in touch with you. And these things were powerful and they spooked you to your bone.
Yeah. Don't talk to the gray ones, but I've heard the other ones are friendly.
What's with the gray ones?
All gray?
One of my girlfriends.
Because I've heard that before too.
Yeah, she tried to call on aliens, but the gray ones came, and the gray ones are evil. And she said it was like an icky, scary feeling. But there are other aliens that are trying to come to Earth to do good. Sarah.
I have heard that as well, that there are certain types, and it is a color thing as well. Are we losing Andrew here? He's being kicked out of.
They can move me, but they can't.
They can't get rid of your Wi-Fi. Just sit close
Andrew,
enough.
you should show us the moon.
I'm gonna say, oh yeah, let's find that guy.
It's huge tonight.
Firing over in this corner earlier.
So let me ask you, EJ. Well, Andrew's trying to find the moon. Have you done? We can't see anything, Andrew.
He is a shadow.
I'm showing you guys what shadow work really looks like. It's a little cloudy.
So have you done your own shadow work, EJ?
Yeah, a lot of it is inner child work, but my favorite one is mirror meditations.
Okay.
So when I was younger, I feel like I might have told y'all this story at the camp, but maybe I didn't. When I was younger, my father passed when I was really young, and I said things that you say to your father when you're a teenager, and he passed soon after, and I never got to say sorry for these things. And during my yoga teacher training, I was 23 years old, and we had to do a mirror meditation for our homework. And what it was you would sit in the dark, you had a candle in front of you, and you had a mirror, and you had to open your eyes at a certain point and make eye contact with yourself. Eyes are the window to the soul, so you're literally looking in your own windows. And I remember being so utterly frightened that the person that I was going to see was going to be this evil, really bad, just terrible person. And then looking into my eyes, I could see all the parts of myself that maybe weren't perfect, but I realized that there was nothing to be afraid of, and that this person that I had spent so long hating, like, wasn't really that bad. I think that's a key thing with shadow work too, is you have to go in with a loving heart for yourself. If you go in shadow work with this judging mind, you're
Mhm.
only going to further perpetuate these limiting thoughts. You have to go in with a sense of love, with a sense of tenderness, that no matter what you see is okay. So
I
yeah,
love that.
your meditations are fun.
I like that. I'm a big fan. Can I tell you something from the perspective of a father?
Yeah.
Because I have two daughters, and they're in their 20s, and they've said some pretty shitty things to me,
I bet.
and it's awesome. I celebrate those things because I know they're just going through phases. And so I think if your dad, if he was still around today, would be more than forgiving for what you went through. Daughters in particular can be very, very cruel, not only to their parents, but also to each other. Like the sisters right now, they're fighting. And I've just sort of stayed out of it to see how they negotiate it. And I know they're going to work it out, and they are slowly right now. But I think just from the father perspective and from the parent perspective, I think there's just these things that you go through with your kids that are just sort of natural stages, right? And dudes do it on a different level. For whatever reason, women like to make it more psychological and test you that way. Also, when they pop out, it doesn't take them long to sort of very quickly try to find a way to put you in your place. And I'm wondering what that is. Like, I've thought about that multiple times in my life with respect to my relationship with my daughters, because guys that I know that have boys, the relationship is pretty easy, right? Like there's not these hurdles you have to jump through emotionally with a boy. They just kind of do their thing, and and then when they get a little bit older, maybe there's some stuff, like maybe when you got to pick them up at jail or whatnot.
I object.
I was waiting for this.
I absolutely. I hear you, but also like being raised with a brother and a dad, like there's things you have to go through, and then there's a whole nother side to the men's side of it where, right, you're trying to coexist, but also there's a part of every man's soul that wants to be on his own and not attached to his father. So there's sets of implications.
I'm not saying that there isn't things that men and dads and sons have to go through, Andrew. I'm just saying it's not the same mental warfare as early on as it is with daughters.
You think?
Maybe I don't know.
I hear you. I also haven't had daughters or sons, so.
And you have a sister. Did she not psychologically put your parents through a little bit more? Like, was it not a little more taxing?
You're right. She put them through a blender. That's fair.
Yeah. Yes. Girls do that, and it's part of their transition into adulthood. I don't.
But also, like, dudes, if y'all feel really angry or whatever, y'all can like sock it out and like get your aggression out physically, whereas we have to use our words, and they can be weapons.
Yeah. Well, for instance, like I'm of a certain vintage where it was still not cool, but I grew up where most of the guys I grew up with at some point fist fought their father or stepfather, right? And so I've always sort of had this underlying belief that was just part of what, like at 15, I went into the backyard and tried to fist fight my stepfather. It didn't go well for me. But there was an attempt. And you say that to somebody who's like 33, right? And they're like, "You're nuts." like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, well, I don't trust you because you didn't fist fight your father, right? Like, so there's
Andrew, have you tried to fight your dad?
No, I haven't. That's a Canadian thing, because that just doesn't happen in my neck of the woods. I wish I had some epic story about us on the lawn.
there is a gender thing here, definitely.
For sure.
Yes.
I gave my sister a black eye once, but it was on accident.
But did you throw something at her?
No, she was charging at me. And I just remember I threw one punch and it landed. And then immediately after, we're like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't tell mom.
Don't tell mom.
Yay.
You punched somebody?
Oh, don't come in on that part. Oh, no.
What?
Sweet Sarah.
Sarah, this has been a very deep conversation.
I'm sorry that I'm late. I wanted to be here earlier. My mic isn't on it now.
No, it's working. You're crystal clear.
Yeah.
But I can't hear you through my headphones.
You can't?
But you look rad, so that's okay.
That's the main thing.
It might be time for those to go.
Yeah,
I can't let them go.
I think we need to put the air control mic set away. Yeah.
What could that be though? Because it's super annoying to talk and then
I have no idea.
What if you take them off? Are you just talking through the computer right now?
Yeah, so maybe you're just hearing. Where are you at?
Andrew's on the street.
Andrew.
He got kicked out of
I
Starbucks.
was living on the street. That was out of control.
That was.
Used to be some regulations on those motorcycles.
So let's catch you up, Sarah.
Aliens.
We're talking about shadow work, and we kind of got into it based on my alien story. You'll have to go back and listen to this when you get.
You told it before I got here.
I'm sorry.
20 minutes ago.
Oh my god.
And that kind of led into what shadow work might be.
8 and 9.
But here's the thing. In his dream, he says he goes back to when he was a teenager and he's looking at the tree line of his old house in Yak. House? Area?
Yeah, house. Yeah. Shack.
Uh-huh.
No indoor plumbing. It was an interesting childhood. There may have been a teepee.
It sounds like
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, and I said that it felt like when I got up, it felt like something that I had lived through before, and that's why I said to you guys it was like a repressed memory, and I had no idea that had anything to do with shadow work, and so that led us into a bit of a conversation. EJ cracked her soul open again.
Oh my god, you guys started the whole podcast without me. I just noticed that.
Oh, no, we didn't. Just a little bit. We've only been talking for a little.
You're all caught up. And then Andrew and I are telling EJ about the difference between men and women and how we deal with our feelings.
Yes, in general, there's a huge difference.
Oh, yeah. Sarah, please enlighten us.
Yeah, go, please. Take the floor.
Well, how men and women deal with feelings? I mean, it certainly depends on the man and the woman, or the woman, but in general, men are taught not to deal with feelings at all. And it's changing a little bit now, but usually, like, women are allowed to be in feelings and are even encouraged or like told that they're sensitive or too sensitive or something like that, which can bring kind of like shame around feelings. But with men, there's even extra shame and actually like a non-acceptance of feeling anything.
That's why we have alcohol, Sarah.
Yes, that is a huge reason. What did EJ say? What did you crack open?
I don't know if she wants to dig it back up again. We were trying to get past it.
Oh, we were talking about mirror meditations for shadow work.
What kind of meditation?
Mirror.
Mirror.
Look in the mirror.
I do. I love this.
So
Shadow work too.
she was talking about what she was dealing with from losing her, and I don't, man, that's tough. Losing her dad at a very young age, and then you know, getting older and living in the time when she was, you know, being a shitty teenager to her parents. So
Yeah.
and then, you know, in your adult years, EJ, I don't want to speak for you, but you know,
You're doing a
looking
great
back
job.
at, here, I didn't have a chance to apologize to my father for being, you know, at that stage. And I'm like, it's for me, like as a dad, having gone through that with teenage girls, it's just, you realize that it's just, all right, here it comes. They're 12, 13, put a helmet on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta turn that.
But I had developed this belief where I truly thought I was a bad person or an evil person.
Yeah.
No.
Mhm.
And that's what shadow work is finding these little moments and you're like, yeah, sweet one. You're okay.
You're okay. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Totally.
So what's your favorite shadow work to do?
Looking in the mirror is one of them. Looking into my own eyes. That's something that sometimes I do in the trainings. It's surprising actually how strong a feeling that you might get if you haven't done this before, just to look at your own eyes. Like sometimes in yoga or like some of these like practices we do gazing at each other. And I would suspect that for many people, it's almost easier to gaze into somebody else's eyes than to look in your own.
Mhm.
And that for me is so huge. Even if I have a really big decision to make or something, and I'm not sure, like my mind is putting it in different, you know, they can see all the perspectives. If I look at myself in the mirror in my eyes, then I have a very clear answer very quickly.
You know what I've been realizing lately, and I don't know if you guys do this, but I consciously try to make eye contact with people.
Yeah, I always do this.
Ooh.
Love
Yeah,
that.
and
It's a lot
I don't know when I started to do it, but I feel like it's something that it's fairly recent that I've been conscious of it. And I find it, I'm trying to figure out my not judgment piece. I think it's not a judgment piece. I'm trying to figure out where to put people, like categorize them. Men are so fucked. I'm trying to figure out where to put people in all these boxes based on their ability to make eye contact with me in a conversation. And I haven't quite sorted it out because I don't, it's still confusing me. But very few people will return eye contact with you when you're talking to them.
True.
It's a really vulnerable thing because you're letting someone like see you.
Yeah.
And so if it feels too raw, you look away.
Then you look look
Mhm.
down.
No boxes. They're
No,
just
yeah.
afraid.
Men love categories. I will say that much.
Yeah. And I'm trying not to do it because I haven't been able to break it out into categories yet. Like, you know what I mean? I haven't been able to label it yet. And everyone's kind of different. So I'm like,
I'm trying to hold your eye contact right now.
No, I'm like looking.
I'm still processing it. Right. But I was in a meeting today, and I was having a conversation with two other people. And the woman that was leading the meeting is very dynamic and a very strong person, somebody who is obviously very intelligent as well. And when we were talking, I was trying to get her to look at me by making eye contact with her, and she wouldn't. She avoided it. But I have a lot of respect for this woman, and I don't know her very well, but I really like her. But I found that interesting.
It can not. It can be not. Most likely, it is not about you. It's because are you feeling like if somebody's not looking at you in the eyes, it's something like they should do it, or it, because there can be a million, there can be as many reasons as there are people why they don't want to make eye contact. For some, it can really be I just saw the eye contact is hard. It can be really hard for sensitive people, for like if you're shy, it may not be about the other person at all. It's more that yeah, like you feel like, oh, I can't look, like you just can't handle it. Because I'm so curious about this as well. When I was a kid, one of my friend's dads, he said to me, Sarah, you always look at us in the eye. He's like, you even look at adults in the eye. He said, you know, how did you learn to do that, or why do you do that? And I responded to him, it's how I know people. And that I was pretty young when I said that, like maybe I think maybe like a preteen or like very early teenager. But that for me, my whole life has really been something, because people cannot look at you in the eye because they want to hide something and they don't want you to see them. But it can also more likely be that it's a shyness and it feels intense. There's a huge amount of, and if you go into the energy world, there's a huge amount of energy that comes from our eyeballs. Like where we point our eyes, that's where a ton of our energy, like where our focus goes, tons of energy goes there. So it can also be like a lot of energy coming into the person, even if they're not into the energetics or whatever, but that's happening. When you make eye contact with someone, there's a very deep exchange that's happening. So for many people, that especially in the modern world, it's so difficult to go into this this deep place. And it's rarely about the other person.
And I haven't been able to like quantify these boxes yet, so I'm not putting people in them yet. I'm still working on it, but I'm fascinated by and people in the yoga world. I find, and maybe this is because my last year has been crazy, and I've met way more people in that world. I find that way more people in the yoga world make eye contact.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where I started to be a little bit more cognizant of it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not judging people for not. I'm sitting there working it out in my head, going, why is this person
conducting a case study?
Yes.
Yeah,
is that fair?
I can totally see you doing that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I also feel like nowadays where we're able to look at a screen, right, and be so involved visually, but it requires no energy or no presence. And then when you switch from that and you look at something and you feel their energy, and then like you feel this shift, it's like this is something maybe we're struggling to handle as we start to like stare at these intense screens and watch movies mindlessly, right? Because it used to be you're just looking at nature or people. Now it's like there's so many things you can stare at and be engaged in, podcasts, movies, whatever it is, but you don't actually have to be there. So then in turn, it's actually making people less present when they do look at you.
Yeah, and to really make eye contact with someone, you have to be present. Like you will
Totally.
It takes a lot of vulnerability and confidence, but it is vulnerable for sure to just like look into someone's eyes.
I'm also finding it interesting, and I'm trying to figure out what it is about some people's energy that can change a room. Like I'm going to different yoga studios and trying to find a place I feel comfortable with. And so I went to a class on Saturday, and at the end of the class, I don't think there's enough gratitude in the world. So, and I try to pass this on to my kids as well. And they're both really good at it as well. I always feel like if somebody gives me their time and does something, I'd like to recognize them for it. So I always go out of my way to say, thank you. You know, I'm grateful for, you know, that practice. And
Yeah.
the woman that
You
was
do that.
conducting the yoga class on Saturday said to me, she said, I want to thank you. After I thanked her for the class, she goes, I want to thank you because it was really cool having your energy in the room. And it stuck with me. And I'm wondering what it is about people's energy that other people can pick up on. Because I can do it. I can feel somebody's good energy or bad energy in a room. But it's hard again to quantify and put in a box and put a nice little label on it. So I think this eye contact thing is also part of this exploration that I'm in right now, is also trying to figure out how people change an energy in a room. Like, I mean, if you're in the same area as EJ and EJ shows up, she immediately changes the energy for good in that room.
Yes.
But what is it about what EJ's doing that makes the energy shift in a room immediately?
Wait, can we talk about frequency?
I was just gonna say it's frequency. It's resonance and frequency.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
everyone emits their own frequency, and there's two types of resonance, or two types of way that people vibrate or things vibrate. So everything has its own resonance, let's say. If you pluck a guitar string, it has something called forced resonance, which means it will only vibrate to an A. So if I went up to a guitar and sang an A note, only the A string would vibrate. Humans have free resonance, where over time, if we're exposed to a certain hertz or sound wave or certain frequency, we will shift and attune to that frequency. So if you live in a city and you're getting bombarded by like semis and all this chaotic stuff, you'll shift to a higher, more chaotic resonance.
Mhm.
And if you're exposed to other things, you attune to that. So it's really what you expose yourself to,
Yeah.
which is why sound healings can be so effective. But what you're feeling is just the resonance that they're vibrating at.
Mhm.
And some of that I feel is given to us by a higher universal power.
Mhm.
And then some of it you can control with your routine and how much you're actually vibrating compared to your potential.
100%.
Yes.
Hold on. I catch me up here. I didn't get that, Andrew.
I think like some of EJ's radiance when she walks in is like given her by a godly power that's unexplainable. You know, and then another part of it is her showing up and putting in the work and feeling good to get to as high as she can vibrate. But I think people are brought down to earth, and we have like people have different abilities to vibrate higher, more, and less. And some people have the ability to vibrate at a way higher frequency.
Have y'all ever done your human design?
No.
No, I've never done this.
Okay,
No.
that should be our next podcast episode, because you put in your date of birth, you
writing
get a
this down.
huge human design, but it tells you all your gifts. And it says one of my gifts is just providing joy. Like, and you have a
Wow.
huge list. You have a huge list, but that was one of them. And I was like, oh, Ty. That's great.
Yeah.
So just next podcast idea. All you need is your date of birth. I'll send y'all the thing.
Okay, I would love to do that.
I like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've
It's
heard of
rad.
it before, but I've never checked mine.
It's a whole world, but it also is like a permission slip that's like, it's okay
This is
You
gonna
have
freak me
multiple
out
different
again.
passions. It is
It might
gonna
freak
freak
you
you
out.
out. It's like oracle cards to the max. This will be your shadow work, Lock, is to do your human design.
So is that kind of shadow work as well?
What?
Yeah, it could
Yeah,
be.
it's
If there's parts of
self-discovery.
yourself that you're like, oh, but I don't want to be that.
So let's go back to defining shadow work. It's an attempt to, if I'm getting this correct, find ways to tap into why you are who you are.
A little bit.
Okay.
That's the goal. It's like sitting with the icky parts of you so you learn to love or accept self-acceptance, accept all parts of you. But the shadow is the parts that you hide
Yes.
or you might not even be aware of.
Yes.
Let's keep in the dark.
Yes.
Yeah, that you keep in the dark.
Exactly. So these are the qualities too of shadow work, it can be it's whatever's in our unconscious or things that we prefer to keep unconscious, but it can be like a lot of it is like qualities that we would deem as negative, but it can also be positive things. It can also be hiding yourself from your highest potential or your highest light. Or even like being, shining as bright as you are meant to. So the shadow can be the a lot of it is these like icky qualities, these things that we don't want to look at, these things that we just don't want to see in ourselves. But it can also be things of like holding our light back. And maybe saying like, well, I'm not good enough, or I can't do that, or whatever. But really, like, it is something that you know that maybe like you would love to do, or so the shadow can also be hidden positive qualities within you that maybe you just haven't tapped into or haven't pursued for whatever reason. There's many reasons that we do this. We hide our light as well as the shadow.
That's
And how
huge.
How often have you done this, Sarah?
The shadow work?
Yeah.
It's something in psychology. I learned a little bit about it. It's just something I've dabbled in, but I really love it. Like it is something that, like to know yourself. It can be so uncomfortable, but it helps to just bring this security that we're not perfect, and it's okay. Like it's like, yeah, we've made mistakes, we've done things that we wish that we had acted different, or that we said different, or we regret not taking some shot or something that we wish we could have done if we had the confidence in the moment. So these things, like to uncover them, it for sure, even to admit it, just even to ourselves, can be, it takes so much courage to do this kind of work. It really takes this deep self-love and self-acceptance. Like EJ said, the real thing is to see ourselves in the clearest perspective as possible, and then to just say, yes, I am that. And all of it, I accept everything about me, and I let myself be who I am.
And is
The
there
shadow
another
can bring a lot of power. The shadow actually
Yeah.
brings us tons of power when we know this. When we see these unconscious aspects of ourselves, we gain so much power because we don't have these hidden things. I have a quote here from a course I'm taking online from Divine Harmony. It's an amazing shadow work course, and there is one here. Where was it? I don't have it actually. I thought it was here. Well, the one that's on the page is this one, so I'll read it out loud, but I was thinking of a different one. The person who denies their shadow surrounds themselves with enemies, real or imagined. So this is one thing about shadow work is if we don't address our shadow, we see it everywhere we go. We see it in other people. We project onto others. But there's one.
Kind of like
Okay.
codependency.
Yeah, it can for sure transform into codependency, because you'll attract like what you're denying within yourself, or you'll attract something that kind of it like it's there to show you this part of the shadow.
And
And our emotions usually show us like where the shadow work is to be done. Like if you're feeling socially anxious, there's probably something there where you're exactly what you were saying, Sarah, where you're afraid to show up as yourself and bring your light. Or if you're jealous of someone, you're usually jealous of a quality that they have that you want to emanate.
That you'd love to pursue, exactly, and be doing.
Yeah.
Totally. So the emotions, when you follow the emotion, which this is the hard part, is sometimes when we feel something that's too much, and even things like jealousy or anger or something, where we think, oh, no, I don't feel like that. That's fine. But those, when we follow those, it actually shows us exactly what EJ said. It shows us exactly where to go. It's like, oh, okay, I'm jealous of this. Okay, well, then I should probably get myself doing that. Because that's why you feel it, because it's something that you want to do and you're not doing it for yourself. So you're hiding that part of you, that light part, and you're keeping that in the dark. So what EJ said is super important in shadow work, and maybe you already said this, but to follow the emotion, the anger, the jealousy, the sadness, the guilt, the things that we would like to just be like, no, I don't want to feel that, and I'm fine, or whatever. But when we follow it and see where it comes from, that's where we get the shadow dig. Like that's like, oh, okay, I uncovered something about myself. Maybe you didn't even know you wanted to do that. Or maybe when we feel anger, we feel a boundary has been crossed. So it shows us that, like, oh, okay, maybe in that situation or whatever, like I felt that way because my boundary was crossed. And you learn even something of yourself in that moment of, oh, I didn't realize I had that boundary there, actually, that I needed to keep that. And then so it gives you a light bulb moment of being like, oh, okay, if I felt angry there, I should keep a stronger boundary. That's my responsibility to communicate that and to do that for myself. Yeah, so when we follow the emotion, that's really the way to go to the shadow, to go to what we're hiding from.
And it's interesting because we're talking about it with outside of the mirror technique. We haven't really brought up any other techniques. Andrew mentioned earlier, I think before you jumped on, Sarah, that he sort of intuitively did it. Right? Like, did you have a technique, Andrew, to do your own shadow work?
For me, it's less about the technique, but rather about the courage to sit still into it. So I couldn't tell you a consistent technique I use, but the times when I feel it the strongest and I just sit with it, right, and breathe into it, typically what I'm doing is breathing through these things. But to me, it's like it chooses when the time is. It's never when I want. And then I'm like, oh shit, I'm feeling this dark, suppressed part of myself. And then I have to sit with him. And then he gives me the answer for the next thing I have to do.
You've given it a gender.
Yeah, he's gnarly. But another point I wanted to add, which is when I texted you guys, I was like, oh, I have a hot take. I thought of it in more of a physical way, right? So what actually, say you're walking on a path and there's a shadow of you to your left. So what would make that shadow as big and as dark as possible?
A lot of light.
Yeah. So I had this like aha moment where I was like, okay, sometimes I feel like my darkness is like unfairly dark and it's really heavy, and I'm sure other people have felt that too, right? I'm sure on some level we're all going through a similar thing. But I believe the more light you have and the more you shine, the darker your shadow will always be. And as
Yes.
Sarah said, it's not necessarily bad or good, especially if you're aware of it. You look at that dude who's a gnarly motherfucker and it can move you to the next place.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, for sure. And we can also choose what to manifest. So this is a huge part
Mhm.
of the shadow work. The awareness, because of course, if you have the greatest light, you have the greatest darkness. That is it has to be that way. So it is something where
Is it just
we
a
can
balance thing,
see our
Sarah?
shadow, and yes, it's about balancing it, and it's
Mhm.
about the being aware of the darkness, being aware of all these little qualities that we our behavior patterns, and it can be much darker as well. But we when we bring the awareness to it and we know it really well, like I read something, a quote recently where it was like I didn't slay my demons, I learned their names. And I was like, whoa, I love that. Like it's like you learn all the names of all your shadows and you say, okay, come with me. And you get to bring them everywhere you go, but there's a choice of what you manifest and what kind of energy you create in the world. It's your free will, it's your choice. So you can do this any time, any way you want. And the awareness of the shadow is what helps. It actually helps the light, the shadow. If you're
Hmm.
aware of it, the shadow is also the part of us that protects us. There's something called the golden shadow that is a actually it's like all of our darkness. But Andrew, I think one time you said to me like clear darkness, where it's and I don't know exactly how to describe it other than that, where it's clear darkness, but it's something that actually like makes you strong, and it protects you. It's something that it doesn't take any shit. It's the part of you that will stand up for yourself and the part of you that will never give up on yourself. It can be a very, very big strength, and especially when we bring awareness to the shadow, the strength of the light, it becomes more huge, because the shadow, how it manifests always, is it's unconscious. It's, I guess you can't say always, most of the time it is unconscious. So it's we play out these behaviors without even realizing it or rationalizing things to ourselves, and letting the unconscious run the show, whereas it's not meant in this way. It's not meant to be the one running the show. It's meant to be blended and integrated and balanced. And then with our free will, we get to choose what we manifest into the world, and what behaviors and whatever we want to bring in is our choice, is our power.
And when you say bring in, Sarah, what do you mean? Because I have this sense that if I was to spend any time doing this, if I pulled any of these guys out, I'd probably want to put them back in the box right away.
Yes, for
You
sure.
you and your boxes, Law.
He's there, he's
This is the
stacking
theme.
boxes, he's labeling boxes.
The shadows in the boxes, the eye contact
So
ladies in
we
the
Shadow
box.
still,
I mean,
boxing.
how much stories do you have?
yeah, I got quite a bit. It's a big melon. So I'm pulling these out. I can have a little dance with them one day, but it's my choice to put them back in the box.
It's
It's just
it's
throw
your
the box
choice.
away and
Yeah, no
dance with them.
boxes.
Yeah.
Burn the box.
Grab
I don't
their
know if
hands,
you,
become
I don't know
friends
if
with
you
them.
guys
If
are
you put
asking.
your friend in a box, you put me in a box. I had to climb out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you climbed out right away, Andrew.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Andrew just boxed up on that first car.
I'm
Okay,
also I'm at 2%, by the way, guys. So I'm out any second.
Oh,
We're not going to be long, Andrew. We're just about
Yeah.
done. I'm
Okay.
glad Sarah came in, though. She saved us.
That was
Yeah.
I
wild.
found the
We
quote
were
that
floating
I
at
don't
sea.
know.
We were
Did I-
floundering a bit.
we were
There's
a little
no
bit,
way
Sarah.
that you guys were from what you described of what you were talking about. I just came in all crazy. I'm in this like one lighted room.
With
Okay,
incredible
give us
audio
that quote.
quality.
Give us a. We're gonna wrap up with your quote.
It's silent out here.
Yeah.
I'm in the desert. So the quote is from Robert Masters. He's the teacher of my teacher who I'm taking the online course of shadow work with. And I love this. It goes for all shadow work. He defines it as for all those whose longing to be true to oh wait, did I write it wrong? For all those whose longing to be true is becoming stronger than their desire to distract themselves from suffering.
Say that again.
Okay.
Yeah.
For all those whose longing to be truly happy is becoming stronger than their desire to distract themselves from suffering.
It goes back to what Andrew said, sitting with the shit.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a
I love
beautiful
that.
quote to end with.
That's a
There's
good,
a
it's
song
good-
there, Andrew. There's a song in that.
Yeah, there is.
Totally.
Yeah. I can
Super
see
inspiring.
I can see you firing that up for sure. Guys, this was good. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
I truly I wish we could do this more. I know once a month is good, and we're not gonna step it up past that. We have a theme for our next podcast, the human design. Don't forget to send your birth dates. You need the day and the year. EJ,
the
you
month
need
and the day and the year
and the month, the
year,
day, and
time
the
born.
In the
Okay.
place?
and time.
and the time.
Oh no.
What about
Really?
the planet?
Okay.
I'm losing things. I'll text you.
Okay. All right.
My
Yeah.
service
Send it.
is like shoddy.
Where is it
Oh,
going?
we're losing EJ. We're losing EJ. This
Oh,
was
no.
amazing. Thank you, EJ, for once again cracking your soul open for us. Andrew.
Dude, yes.
Thank you for your contribution is always
Yeah.
always
I love you guys.
100% needed. 100% needed, Andrew. Thank you.
100%.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, that was awesome. And we will meet in a month. We'll figure out the date and promote it as well. And Sarah, say hi to everybody in JT for me. Joshua Tree.
I will.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, much love from J Tree.
It was a good one. It was a good one today.
Pack, whoa, life is beautiful, ay, pack, whoa, life is beautiful, what, pack, whoa, and life, pack, whoa, life is beautiful, pack, it's the motherfucker, life is beautiful, pack, yeah, life is, whoa, pack, whoa, life is beautiful, the moon is full, I got great friends, Wolfpack, funeral, to the bad vibes, yeah, fuck the bad times, yeah, higher consciousness, I see it through my third eye, I found people who got visions of a dream like mine, a place where standing ain't enough, and they convince you to fly, I'm rocking with my friends to the drum, living out my life while I'm young. The Wolfpack, baby, well, it's only just begun. Howling at the moon, we found abundance in the sun. Wolfpack, 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 Wolfpack. Life is beautiful, ay, Wolf. Life is beautiful, what? Wolf. And life is beautiful, Wolf. Life is beautiful. Life is beautiful, yeah, life is, the pack runs deep, I got nothing left to compete, we are all love, not see, it's best to let it go and let it be, we are all, whatever that we want, I see you and me. I see no more front, I see what you are, you see who I am, Wolfpack, baby, goddamn. And we're questioning our consciousness. Life is here to ponder it. If negative emotions do arise, then you can conquer it. A UFO flew by in the sky, and I'm wondering if ever they did land at my place, could we all be friends? And I got hella love for a friend that holds me down. The Wolfpack here right now, singing I could be me, I could be free, and you could be you. Shit, that's all I need. Like, and the moonlight shines down on my face. All my worries been replaced by hopes and dreams. I hope you say you will. Let the moon shine on my face. All my worries have been replaced by dreams and ambitions. I hope you listen when the moon is full. It'll grant your wishes. Hey.
Whoa, pack. What's the motherfucker?
Hey.
Whoa, pack. Whoa.
Life is beautiful.
Pack.
Yeah. Life is.
Whoa, pack. What's the motherfucker? Whoa.